According to a new report from The Guardian, Patel has already locked down significant Senate support ahead of his confirmation hearing. So we're going to bring in the author of that article, Hugo Lowell, senior political correspondent for The Guardian. Hey, my friend, I'd like to know what your sources are telling you about how Patel was able to rise above his controversies during his meetings with senators this week.
Yeah, it was a pretty smart strategy to basically hide himself behind the other controversial nominees, people like Pete Hegseth, who has continued to be in the headlines this week. And while Pete Hegseth was attracting all of this scrutiny, Kash Patel very quietly went round the members of the Senate Judiciary Committee and completed, from what we understand, 17 meetings with senators, which is quite extraordinary given, he is supposed to be one of the controversial nominees as well. And kind of my sources tell me part of the reason why he went around the Senate Judiciary Committee members is because all of these controversial guys have the same problem. They have the same problem with McConnell, people like Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, these, I guess, the senators who won't necessarily be swayed as easily by Trump because Trump doesn't have leverage over them. And so they have to find ways to convince them to back nominees. And for Kash Patel's case, the idea was, well, if the Senate Judiciary Committee reports out his nomination unanimously, then maybe McConnell as an institutionalist would also vote in favor. And so they're trying to find ways basically to narrow down the number of people who could vote against him. It's been quite a clever strategy in many respects.
Have you learned anything about a background check being conducted on Patel? Because your latest article, just posted today, suggests former FBI officials are concerned he will be handed unlimited power running the agency.
Yeah, there's been no suggestion that Kash Patel's name has been submitted to the FBI, the agency, supposed to lead in a number of months if all goes well. And that would be in keeping with the vast majority of Trump's cabinet picks. So far, the only confirmed cabinet pick we know of whose name has been submitted for vetting is Pete Hegseth. And that was only because he was coming under immense pressure from Senate Republicans. And so they very grudgingly submitted his name. And then, his lawyer, Tim Parlatore, said that had been done. But, the wider point here is that Kash Patel, and then we go through it in the piece a little bit, Kash Patel's background check, even if it did end up happening, might be very, very limited. Kash Patel is a former federal government employee. He's previously had background checks. And for people who get reinvestigated or reinvestigations done by the FBI, the White House can actually determine the parameters of those background investigations. So if Trump or whoever else at the White House decides, actually, Kash doesn't need a particularly deep investigation, it's fine, we'll just give him a security clearance, that can also be done. So I think the idea that we're going to get a very aggressive background check is very slim.
Let me turn quickly to another controversial Trump pick, that being Robert F. Kennedy Jr. The New York Times reports that a lawyer helping Kennedy pick federal health officials for Trump's second term has previously petitioned the government to revoke its approval of the polio vaccine. Is this creating waves in the Senate that could hold up Senate Kennedy's confirmation?
I think so. I'm not sure that was the smartest move on RFK Jr.'s front because, of course, Mitch McConnell is a polio survivor. And if you want to get, same point with Kash Patel, same point with Pete Hegseth, if you want to get people like McConnell to support your nomination, probably best not to attack the thing that McConnell thinks is really, really key, in part because, he is a survivor of polio. I think what you're going to see is him walk back those comments in the weeks ahead because there's certainly that pressure inside Trump world for RFK to curb himself a little bit. Several advisors told me in the last week that they fully expect him to say something problematic or out of turn in the hallways as he's dogged by reporters. But the idea is, maybe he can come to safer ground, stuff like criticizing the USDA over food coloring and things like that, rather than wading into the more polarizing things like vaccines. So I think you'll see a Sherpa steer him away from more controversial topics. Maybe.
Okay. Hugo Lowell, thank you so much for that. And for all of you at the top of the hour, we're going to begin with the breaking news with President-elect Donald Trump, who is mingling with